howdy, Facebook. All right. We're, we 2 o'clock? Well, 2:03. Not bad, not bad. All right. This is our second interview at the new studio in Mound House. And absolutely love it. We got here early in the morning so I could do some more stuff. Yeah, okay. Kind of sloppy, but yeah, I got it done. And so before we get to our special guest, the longest pedigree I have ever seen. Yeah, here, Dave, Cassinelli. Hey, I got that the first time. Yeah. We have John Cassinelli, all right, from Dayton. And you're going to learn a lot. You know, we're all amateurs in this. We are all amateurs. And here's the professional, and boy, are we going to learn a lot. So I have to get to my sponsors, though. They're the one that's paying the bill, so let's get that done. And first and foremost, Virginia City. Virginia City, we have our own magazine, Virginia City Insider. This is absolutely the coolest thing. I just absolutely love it. Cameron Huckins, publisher. Here we are, right there. All right, get used to it. Now there's a new edition coming out shortly. And I'll be in Virginia City talking about Virginia City Insider when that edition comes out. But here we go, Virginia City Insider. Virginia City Insider magazine. We have our own magazine. I love it. And what I love the most, I'm in it. I'm in this one. All right, look here. All right, I got, all right, right there. This is a Westie Award. This is a coveted award. All right, I got Best Film, Best Director, Best Producer, Best Script. I love it. I love that. Here it is right here. All right, and of course my signature is the bullwhips. I do a lot of bullwhips. You want to read anything about that? All right, how cool is that? All right, and look at here. On this page here, we have my book. I have my own book. Sandy Lene, American's author, she says, Doc, you're one of the most interesting men I ever met. Except, well, she hasn't met John yet. But anyway, but that's how the story went. I'd like to do your biography. Okay, let's do it. And she did. And there it is. We have to upgrade that because I've done a lot in the last year and a half since this book's been released. So we'll have to do that. But there you go. There you go. All right. And if you go to my webpage, www.docdurden.com. DocDurden.com. And you have no problem finding this book there. And also, if you want to read a little bit more about me, yeah, everything's there. If you want to look at the movies I've done, yeah, they're there. And you just click on it, and it goes to YouTube, and voila. And I encourage you to do that. There's some fun stuff on there, a little crazy stuff. But I enjoy what I do, all right, and I do have to mention that in 2020, since it's a new studio, y'all familiar what I'd be saying, and at the other studio is that I was the face of Nevada, according to Reno Tahoe Magazine. Reno Tahoe Magazine, an award-winning magazine, 2020. Right here. All right? Reno Tahoe Magazine, an award-winning magazine, and they picked me as a face of Nevada. What an honor that is. Me? Okay. All right. Face of Nevada. How cool is that? John probably been on it 1,000 times. 1,000 times. He had to been. All right. So we got another book to tell you about. All right, the Great Basin Highway magazine. The Great Basin. All right, this gets out to 160 countries. Guess who? Publisher, Cameron Hawkins again. Cameron Hawkins, a busy guy. All right, all right. He's my biggest sponsor. That's the reason why I'm here. Right here. He's seen something in me. What could he possibly see? All right. All right. Great Basin Highway magazine right there. Pick it up. Pick it up. It goes all over the world. And now, wow, guess what I see? Dayton Air Park Magazine Lifestyle. Dayton has their own magazine. Here it is. Here it is. Dayton has their own magazine now. And guess who's publisher? Yeah, okay. Cameron Hawkins, once again, publisher. How cool is that? All right. And guess who's on the front? Guess who's on the front? Dave Cassinelli. Right there. Getting his hands dirty. He's got a couple people in the hole. Either he's burying them or they're doing some sort of work. But this is great scenery right here too. How wonderful. What a interesting magazine. All right. That's a little better picture right there in the back cover. All right, handsome guy right there. Right there. How cool is that? All right. All right. I like this. Oh, this is my friend here, the preacher, pistol packing preacher. The pistol packing preacher. That's him right there. He's out of the Silver Queen. You can actually get him on video. He does video on YouTube. Pull up Pistol Packing Preacher. It's kind of a cool video. I watched it the other day. All right. That's my friend James. That's my friend James. And since we're talking about John here, also in all Cameron's publications, We the People. The Constitution is in every magazine that he puts out. The Constitution. How wonderful. How wonderful is that? I absolutely love it. How many can say that? How many people can say that? I love it. But he does. Every publication. Every publication. All right. Here's a guy that we all remember in the past. I don't know, looks like Wild Bill Hickok to me. Huh? Is there any resemblance there? Huh? I was nicknamed Wild Bill Hickok about 18, 19 years ago in Virginia City. When I first came to Virginia City, I'm all dressed up. Pretty much. Well, it's all in black. Yeah, okay, right there. And they'll say, "Hey, Wild Bill! Hey, there's Wild Bill! Wild Bill! Wild Bill!" No, if that was said once, it was said thousands and thousands of times. So being in Virginia City, you need to be a character. So I certainly picked up Wild Bill, and I've had great fun with that name. Yeah, I don't know. Here, I'm going to do this. I don't know if I should, but I'm going to do it anyway because you talk about. You guys know about the photo shoot that I did last year. All right, it was a big deal. We had Karen Burns there with her girls, beautiful girls, all dressed up in showgirls. All right, dressed up in costume and everything. We had an actress. We had vocalists. We had about 8, 9 people of different genres there because it's the golden era of Reno, and we're celebrating this year. It was supposed to have been last year, but we got locked out because of the COVID thing. Right? So was I disappointed because we had a lot of good people and a photographer, top shelf photographer there, and we just had the best time. So then we got locked out. But guess what? Karen Burns, she calls me 2-3 days ago, and she shows me this photo that they picked for the Pops Philharmonic River Walk this year, July 10th. All right, so I'm going to show you this picture. I'm so proud of it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Can you see that? You see that? They call me the outlaw. Yeah, the outlaw. All right, isn't that an incredible picture? Out of all that entertainment that we had there that day, and it was, and actually I can fill you in. I can give you a little bit of I still have all those little clips too. I can show you all the people that showed up. But anyway, how incredible that! All right, that's enough. That's enough of me. That's enough of Cameron Hawkins. All right, publisher. We're going to get now to John Cassinelli. All right, big name in Dayton. All right, and I have to say this is that I've done a lot of resumes with other people. All right, and I love everybody. Believe me, I just love my guests. All right, I ran out of space with John. I'm telling you, the pedigree that is just, it goes on and on and on. All right, that's just to set him up a little bit, and deservedly so, absolutely. And so, John Cassinelli, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Doc.
And yes, thank you very much. Yeah, you're our second guest here in this wonderful facility, right. And I'm just absolutely loving it. It's quaint, just me and you, and we're set up to do some good production here. But what I would like to know right from the get-go, and I do this to all my guests, is that where'd you grow up at?
Well, Doc, I was born in Reno, but I was raised in Carson City, and I grew up in Carson, went to school there from elementary school through high school, went a couple years to the Western Nevada College there, and pretty much grew up in Carson, and I'm actually fifth generation of Northern Nevada.
Fifth generation of Northern Nevada. Fifth generation.
That's right. Yeah.
Hold it now. Wait a minute now. There is nobody that I know of. I've had second generation. Fifth generation. All right. Obviously, you got to tell me more. Go ahead.
So pretty rare, I guess. But my family would have been my great grandfather. Came from Tuscany, Italy, and settled in Dayton, and they were there right around 1889. They settled into the Dayton Valley, and they came across on Chisholm Trail.
The Chisholm Trail.
Yeah.
Now we're talking some history here.
Yeah. But yeah, they were in Dayton, and they were. What was called the Old Fish Ranch then, but it's actually the Ritchie Ranch is a pretty well known ranch there still. And the old ranch house, there was 12 Cassinellis born on that ranch. And
12.
And would have been my great grandfather was born there on the ranch. So, but they left the Dayton area, probably around 1910, somewhere around there, and they moved to Sparks, and they had a couple ranches along Glendale Road in Sparks, and that's where my pop grew up.
Then it was open. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was just land after.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So, but as a little kid, I can remember visiting my grandparents. Still lived over there. My great grandmother lived on the ranch still, and it was right at Glendale and Rock Boulevard, right in that area. So
the Nugget, the John Esquagas Nugget, which is not John Esquagas, but I like John. The John Esquagas Nugget, right there, at what he's talking about, right there.
Yeah. So that whole area right along the river, and Rock Boulevard kind of bisected what was the ranch. But yeah, it was probably, oh gosh, I don't know. They sold the ranch, and you know, it got ultimately developed by the time I was around. But I moved, yeah, probably to Carson City. My pop worked for NDOT, the highway department in those days, and so that's what brought us over to Carson from Sparks. But
Now they call that the same name today.
yeah,
Is that right? So how far back we going? We're going probably what, 50, 60 years ago.
Oh yeah, probably.
Easily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 52, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and my wife too is native Nevadan, and she grew up. Well, she grew up in Carson, but she was originally from Mina and Hawthorne area.
Okay, so she was born.
But she moved to Carson City.
Moved to Carson, yes.
And that's where we met. But yeah, we've been married 31 years.
31 years.
Got a
31 years. I got to tip my hat to that. 31 years.
Got a couple pretty good kids, you know, that we real proud of them. I got a son, and he's 25, lives over in Reno, and I got a daughter who's 23 that works for the state in Carson City. So yeah.
All right.
So
they're out of the house and they're working, and they have their own families.
well, not yet.
Not yet.
They're working on it, but
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
they're still young. So.
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. Yes.
Good kids.
Yeah.
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 Real good kids. We're
Yeah.
proud of them. So.
Yeah. And so you eventually moved back to Dayton.
Yeah. So,
Well, before we go there, now you had you certainly graduated from Carson, and then you had college after that. How much college did you have, and what?
2 years.
2 years of college, and what was the studies?
Mostly construction.
Construction.
Trades.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business.
Yeah, and that certainly worked well for you, because now you're in. Now you moved to Dayton when?
Oh, probably around, I would say 1992 or 93.
Yeah, 93.
So,
And is there a reason why you moved back to, or you moved to Dayton?
Well, the property values were more affordable for, you know, starting out a young family, and, you know, we were living in Carson, but brand new homes out in Dayton were pretty affordable in those days.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the reason.
Yeah. And did you have, before what you do today, did you have a job before?
Yeah, so my pop, he was working for NDOT, and he started the company originally. He's the founder of the company, and we're going into our 46th year this year business. So obviously I'm second generation, but yeah, he started it out 1975, and he was still working for NDOT at the time, but on the weekends he was doing sprinkler systems and things like that for the what was it? It was Ron Kitchen Homes in Carson City, where we lived when I was a kid, and he was doing a lot of the sprinkler systems.
Where was home base for him? Like, for instance, he lived in.
We lived in Sparks when I was a kid, and then we lived in Carson City.
Carson City is a home base for him right then. Starting out with landscaping, and he started out sprinklers and all this. Well, probably new homes back then, getting them all set up and everything.
Yeah.
And then he's still doing that.
No. He he had the business about 20 years is all. 19 years, I think. My mother's family, they were in construction in Reno, and we would go over on the weekends and do a lot of landscaping for some of the projects that they were building, 7-Elevens and Wendy's restaurants and warehouse markets, and so that's kind of how we got started. But my pop, he wanted to get back into the consulting, highway consulting, and highway construction, so he left the business in '94, and I bought him out in 1995.
Okay.
So
All
I've
right,
had
now.
it actually longer than he had it now.
All right,
So,
yeah, and how old were you when you started helping your dad?
oh gosh, I started helping when I was just a little kid. I was still in elementary school.
Elementary school.
But I worked for my pop
Wow.
all through. You know, in high school, I'd get my buddies, and you know, in those days we were mowing lawns and stuff like that. And I also worked in a gas station. You know, pumping gas in my high school years.
I think we all did that. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of how I got started. Was working in the family business, and then when I bought it, 95. I started kind of going a different direction. So I built a lot of the parks and a lot of the commercial stuff you see around Carson City. I did a lot of municipal and public works projects, and kind of escalated into or transitioned into more of a construction.
And is that like building houses?
Not building houses, but construction as far as underground utilities, concrete.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
You know, patios, driveways, decking, gazebos and garden structures and things like that. So we kind of transitioned more in that direction.
Now,
so
see, that's all.
that's why now I call myself an outdoor living general contractor.
Yes.
Because we do more than just you know, landscaping work. So
Well, before you got into the transition there, you're doing a lot of parks and everything. That sounds like you had heavy equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
so now you're starting with in Carson, and you're kind of flattening out a lot of area, so you can build up some public areas, parks and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And how in the heck did you afford to buy heavy duty tractors and things like that to be able to do that?
I gave half my ass.
Yes, okay. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
So you gave up just about everything because you're very confident that that this was the way, so you gave up everything that you had to get a tractor or two, so you could do. And of course, you can't do what you do unless you have the big tractors, and you did. So and that catapults you to what you're doing today. Yeah,
Right.
And this is a full landscape with everything. Now this is where and I've done the same thing. I'm an amateur. You're an amateur. We have a lot of amateurs that we're tuning in right now. So we have a lot to learn. So this is the learning video right now. So one thing leads to another, and then of course your customers have said, well, so John, since you're here, how about putting up a gazebo? John, can you put a deck in? Well, John, can you? How about if you just flatten out this area so we can have a garden or something? Is that kind of like how?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. So your first job when you made the transition. It kind of bleeded into that same genre.
I would say the first big project that I took on when I was on my own would have been in 1998, and I got awarded the Sierra Nevada Golf Ranch, which is Genoa Lakes, the Genoa Lakes 2, I guess, where the Little Mondo Lodge was there. So I was the general contractor for all of the outdoor landscaping other than the playable golf course. So, they have national golf course companies come in and build the golf courses.
Yes.
But you got to have somebody else that does all the little tie-in
Right.
around the clubhouse.
So you have certified people come in to make sure that golf course is certified in case they have a big tournament or whatnot. But you do the outside work. Everything that doesn't need to be certified. This is where John comes in.
Yeah, we did irrigation and landscaping and concrete and cart paths and bridges and just a multitude of of stuff on that project. It was a really large project. Actually ended up calling my pop and bringing him back and working with me on that project, and others afterwards too, because that's probably what really got me going into the bigger stuff.
Okay, so now we're talking bigger stuff. All right. Before we go to the bigger stuff, what can you teach us amateurs? Say, for instance, we bought a new home, and now we have to put we like to put a garden in, we like to put a deck in, we like to put a gazebo, have the outdoor living, so we can do our barbecues and grilling and all that stuff. So the first thing, the most important thing is the first thing, and the first and the first thing is what?
Grading and drainage.
Drainage. That's
The
That's
biggest
it.
mistake I see do-it-yourselfers and other, maybe not qualified people is, they really mess up on the drainage. You got to make sure the backyard is going to drain out through the front yard, and you don't want it draining to the house. And I see that
All the time.
all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
So people will pour concrete and it's draining into the house, draining into the neighbor's yard, and just you just create more problems.
That's a problem.
When you don't do it right. So,
Yeah. Hey, John. Hey, I got a swimming pool here.
Right.
Do you intend on doing that? Exactly. You don't want to have everything flowing to your neighbor's yard. That would be expensive. I don't know if insurance would be paying for that or what. So now that's good stuff because that's critical. Nobody thinks of that. No, they just go ahead. No, let's just put this deck up. Kind of make a flat and then put the deck in.
Yep. Yeah, but there's kind of a standard operating procedure for us on jobs, but we'll start with grading and drainage, and then the hardscape items, whether it's pavers or concrete or whatever we're doing there, retaining walls. We do a lot of engineered retaining walls and complex things like that, and then after that, the landscape, the softscape stuff, the lipstick on the pig, I call it.
Yes,
But but that's the last thing.
Yeah, and that's what we're all going for is the lipstick.
Yeah.
But there's so much work to be done before that.
Yeah.
So the average, take for instance me. Fortunately, for the most part, I've lived in areas where it was always sloped anyway, up in the hills. So it always sloped anyway. So I had no problem. It kind of the lay of the land kind of just. All right, so I had no problem with drainage and everything, but for me, what I did back in the 80s? Back in the 80s, I took 4 years off, and when I say that, I dedicated myself to watch the how-to programs back then.
Sure. Yeah.
This Old House, Home Time. The Wood Right Shop,
Yankee Workshop,
Yankee Workshop, all those, right? So from exactly what you're doing for breaking ground and to the finished product, and like I said, everything is just about the same. Every county has something a little different, okay? But everything is about the same. And this is a roughing in. This is building housing. This is finished work. This is electrical. This is plumbing. And I learned all that, and I learned it well because I put all this into practice. And I did this in San Mateo, and I had permits to do that. So we had people coming out constantly and checking, make sure everything is right. And good for them. You need to. Yeah, you need to. Otherwise, you burn down your neighbor's house. Yeah. You don't want to do that. But I did learn well, and I built me a whole western town. And I'll show you how to bring that up on YouTube. It's on there. Triple D Ranch Part 1. You'll see, exactly what I built, and it took me several years to be able to do that. But let me tell you, it's the pride of workmanship, and I just absolutely loved it. I had a hammer in one hand, I had a saw in another hand, and I'm waiting till 7 o'clock so I can make some noise. Otherwise, I'm 6 o'clock. I'm waiting. But, you know, I had, you know, and I'll show you all those buildings. They're just absolutely beautiful. And I don't have the ranch now, but I had it for 13 years. And let me tell you, and then with the annual barbecue with the Triple D Ranch, 200 people, no less than 200 people. That's all I could fit. I opened up one of the pastures for parking, and that was it. But let me tell you, that was absolutely the best time. And this is what you do. You make people happy. You fulfill their dreams. Your customers are laying in bed like this, looking at the ceiling and thinking about how they can go ahead and put a deck on and and the simple way of doing it is hiring John. So John comes in and he does everything. Now, everything that you do, is that like permitted? Permits?
Well, not everything.
Not everything
requires it, but a lot of it does. Yeah. You know, you mentioned the television programs. You know, a lot of people now watch HGTV. And
Yes,
they see,
same thing.
You know,
yeah.
They see this project that probably took, you know, 4 months to build, and they see it go together in 45 minutes on TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff is kind of complex. You know, I mentioned the retaining walls. You know, a lot of the retaining walls we build are engineered and permitted. Believe it or not, sprinkler systems, irrigation is supposed to be permitted.
It's supposed to be, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, you know, some of the electrical, we put in hot tubs occasionally. We'll run electrical to barbecues, gas lines, stuff like that's all got to be permitted. Decks, if the deck is a certain height off the ground, that's got to be permitted. So yeah,
and also if it's attached to the house, that's another.
In some cases,
some cases,
jurisdictions,
okay.
Yeah. And then you know, we'll do driveway approaches and anything that's adjacent to the right of way of a city street or something. Typically,
now you're talking about retaining walls. Now to make a safe retaining wall, you have to have a good foundation.
Yeah.
How far down do you have to go to have a good foundation, and how wide?
It's
and
a good
how?
question. You know, it all depends on the material that you're using.
Okay.
You know, if you're using concrete masonry block, a CMU, just a cinder block, everybody, you know.
Is that the most inexpensive?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay.
But those, you know, that type of wall is going to require a pretty significant foundation. You know, the last one we did was, I think the foundation was 5 feet wide and about 2 feet thick, and the blocks sit towards the front, so a lot of that is acting as what we call a dead man. So
okay.
then you got, you know, rebar and steel, a lot of stuff going into that.
So you have all the weight back here, so it doesn't
Tip,
tumble forward.
But you know, different types of material require different foundations. The typical retaining wall that we build now is using segmental block, so it's a mortarless block. And you see them all around town, and Costco's got a big one, but normally they'll have a pin, and you know, the bottom row, you put the pins in, and then the next one, and the next one.
Another pin. They
kind of go together like Lego blocks.
Okay. All right.
And that's going to be your most common wall nowadays in the modern market. But and they don't require a whole lot of footing. They just require a compacted base material, and the first course of block is embedded in the ground.
In the ground.
And that's
so what?
That's
you have
typical.
Maybe 6-8 inches.
Right.
In the ground.
6 or 8 inches of compacted base, and then another 6 or 8 inches of the first course of block, and that's all under.
Then you go up.
Then you can.
Okay, with a construction like that, how high can you go up?
Well, we use what's called a geogrid or geo reinforcement, and it's an engineer. It looks just like a net. I mean, you wouldn't think this would add structural strength, but we go up about every 2 to 3 layers of block, and we'll roll this out. And using that process and the right block, you can go up, 30, 40 feet high.
Okay,
So,
that's a couple of stories.
pretty substantial, yeah.
Wow,
So,
and that's
sure.
and that's just a moderate base.
The like I say, the applications, the blocks are different. The larger, you know, the wall, those blocks are going back in 2 feet into the slope. So it's a pretty big, you know, block. The front face looks the same, but some of them might be larger that you don't see. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting, you know, fun thing to build.
Now, are you registered electrician, or you have people come in that are?
No, I'm not. I'm not a licensed electrician. I took part of my college. I took a lot of construction courses, and in those days they didn't have, you know, a degree that you could get. Like now, Western Nevada College has a degree that you can get in construction. But I took, you know, framing, construction 101, and residential electrical, and all sorts of things. But we'll hire out electrical occasionally. The licensing that I have will allow me to do limited, you know, but most of the jurisdictions now want you to get an electrician in there to do.
And for the most part, what you're dealing with is 120 and 220, 240.
Yeah, if we're doing a hot tub, it's going to be 240. The stuff we do in house is typically going to be the low voltage lighting, and you know, there's a lot of landscape lighting that's low voltage.
Exactly.
That we'll do, and you know, we might run if we're doing the state contractors board has, you know, different rules on what a general contractor can do, and you know, he's got to have certain trades come in and do certain things.
Sure.
But if we're just running like a barbecue and we got to extend an electric line in, we might do that in house. But we've got guys that do that.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I'm asking, because you know, when you are doing a deck, you know, a full blown deck and everything, you are going to have, you know, some people are going to have that the whole inside the house outside, and that
lighting, and fans, you know,
exactly, the plumbing,
fans,
and they'll need 240 and they'll need 120, and that's fairly commonly done, especially if you have a nice island where you have a sink where it creates plumbing, and of course, if now you have garbage disposal out there, now you also have waste. So now you have not only that, you have tie into the sewer to get rid of that stuff. So that's a big job.
Yeah.
That's a big job. All right. Talking about that, what's the biggest residential job you've ever done?
Oh gosh, residential. Hard to say. You know, we've been around so long, it's hard to remember. But we've done some pretty good sized residentials. I would have to say the biggest that we ever did was back probably when my pop was still with the company, and it was Woody Lofton's residence. He was the former owner of the Ormsby House back in the day.
Oh,
and we did a pretty extensive project at his home in Carson City. So it was a big. I would say for residential, that's probably in the top. At least the top 5 of them that we've done. But we've done you know, hundreds of thousands of residential projects.
Yeah.
Some of them might only be a 2 or 3 day front yard redo, and some of them might be, you know, 2 or 3 months. But
2 or 3 months,
you know, we did back in the '80s when I was working with Pop. We did. Captain and Tennille had a home up at Lake Tahoe, and we did their place.
Oh, is that right? Love those. Love those guys.
I built their horseshoe pits in their backyard, and we did their lawn. You know, put the lawn and irrigation in, and small retaining wall and stuff. So yeah, we've done used to do quite a bit up at the lake, and one of the other big one we did was David Duffield residence up in Incline. That was a pretty big project for me.
Lake Tahoe. What a wonderful, scenic place to work, to visit, to just be there. It just gives you a good feeling. So working in Lake Tahoe, doing a big project. Do you buy most of your material in Lake Tahoe, or you have to bring it up?
Most of I try to keep it local when we can, but most of my suppliers are here in Carson or Carson City or Reno.
Yeah.
And that one particular project in Tahoe, we had to order the boulders out of Sacramento. They picked all the boulders, came from a company.
Wow, that's expensive.
So trucking was, yeah. But yeah.
Now, when you talk about boulders, we're talking 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot. How big are these boulders usually?
These were 2 to 3 footers.
2 to 3 footers. Yeah. So they're talking boulders like this, size. And being brought up from Sacramento.
Yeah, but I get a lot of stuff local. If we're doing, the average project I do right now, I use Cinderlite in Carson City for rock and topsoil and bark, and we get a lot of our pavers and things come from Baselite or Carson Masonry Supply, and I get rocks from V&T Rock right here in Mound House.
Mound House, yeah.
And but I try to keep it all pretty local. So.
Yeah. Before we leave residential, and of course this applies to just about everything that you do. When you are laying, cement, and you're putting cement, how important is the rebar into any project when it involves cement?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a structural slab, for like a garage or a shop or something, you got to have rebar.
You got to have the rebar.
If you're doing just a patio, the average patio, we don't put rebar in.
Okay, all right.
What we do is we use fiber mesh. It's kind of the latest and greatest, but it's just little fiberglass hairs that goes into
into the mix.
Yeah, it's right in the mix. And for the average patio or even driveway, that's adequate. If you're doing a driveway for your big motorhome or an RV or something, you might want to put some steel in there, but typically you can't fit the rebar in unless, in an average 4-inch slab.
4-inch, yeah.
You got to go to like a 6-inch slab before you can even fit the rebar in.
And is it important to tie all those rebar together?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if we're doing a project that's structural, the inspector will actually come and look at the ties and make sure that everything's tied
up,
off and good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't do those that often. Usually when we're pouring something, it's a patio or a driveway that doesn't, you don't need that.
Don't need it.
So,
Yeah. Just be careful on that. It gives you a heck of a lot more strength if you put the rebar in, you tie everything together. Because what you don't want to do is put that RV on a nice little slab that you've poured, and all of a sudden a couple of years later it just cracks in one area because settling or whatever. Now then you got to call John. And then what's he going to do? He's going to jackhammer everything up or whatever, and he'll do it right way anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. And now let's leave a residential, and I hope we learned something. I certainly did. I did. Oh, I'm a dirty hand. Okay. Yeah, that's staying. I'm still working. All right. Now the commercial now. This is a whole different can of worms for you, and but very rewarding too, because we're talking acres possibly of stuff that you'll be doing. Well, let's hear it from you. Now you're in the commercial, and now somebody wants you to do everything, whatever that means.
Yeah, commercial. Like I said, I did like a bunch of the stuff at Mills Park in Carson City. I built the Steinheimer Park, the Northridge Linear Park. We did some stuff out at Fuji Park. Did a lot of stuff for the city of Carson. I did the Root Street Post Office, Carson City Courthouse, Secretary of State's office. One of the more interesting projects was back around, I don't know, say 2000. We built the little park between the State Museum and the the old First Interstate Bank, which is now the museum annex. So we demolition Caroline Street and built that little park that's in there. And in the course of that project, we dug up with our backhoe. We ran into our operator was Adrian O'Brien. He was operating the backhoe, and he says, "Well, I'm pulling up a lot of rusty iron and rusty bearings and junk. So, you know, we're supposed to, on a state project, historical project, we're supposed to report anything we find, you know, on the ground." So we got my pop over there and one of the gentlemen from the museum, and they found out that they were actually coin dies from the mint.
Really?
And this
Wow.
is what goes into the press and actually stamps the
Stamps
coins.
it, yeah.
And they threw them out the back door of the museum. Well, not the museum, the mint.
The mint.
Back whenever, and you know they canceled them. They put an X through them, but they just chucked them out the back door.
Really?
You know, 100 years later, whatever, we dug them up.
Dug 'em
here,
up.
and they actually they ran a story on it, and they actually made a display, and they put it into the museum. They put so you can actually go into the state museum,
See the original.
and see these coin dies that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting project, and I've had a multitude of cool projects. We've built cemeteries. I did a lot of the Walton Cemetery in Carson, and I had a state public works project in Sparks one year to exhume remains at the Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health facility and relocate them to a new cemetery that was being built so they could expand the Department of Agriculture.
So you had to move all those headstones, and most importantly, all those coffins.
All the remains.
All the remains. Yeah.
Which, you know, how do you bid a job like that? I
Yes.
You know, I kind of scratched my head and again, I referred to my pop, called my pop back in and said, how can we do this project? And he was closely tied to that because of the proximity to the ranch where he grew up. And it's right there along 21st Street and Glendale Road, right where the ranch was. And he actually wrote an article one time about when he was a kid, they were running a drag line through that property, and they ran into some of the remains, you know, and in those days they didn't treat them with respect, like you know, like
throw them in the hole. Yeah.
So yeah, he came in and we figured out a way to put a bid together on that, and then we went in and pulled it off. So
good, and you made money with it. Good.
Well, we like.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's the only problem making bids. You know.
Yeah.
You can bid yourself into a debt, and of course we don't want to do that too. Everybody needs to get paid, and everybody has to have a little bit of a profit. So that was. That would be very, very careful. Make sure the respect is there, as you were saying, and everybody, each grave is definitely treated the same way, and gingerly and with complete respect. And is it kind of like did you put everybody back in the general vicinity in the new location to where they were close to their neighbors at the beginning, or no? We did. Basically, what we had to do, we had to hire an archaeologist to be on site to examine the remains and try to determine whether or not this really was a 39-year-old male or whatever the case was. So that because a lot of them were marked unknown, and a lot of them did have a marker, but we didn't know whether or not it was accurate because a lot of things had been moved over the years. Yeah, now that's interesting.
And these graves dated back. Average was probably about in the 40s, early 1940s that these graves were put in there. So, but yeah, the protocol was do the exhumation, have the archaeologist on site and looking at it was all skeletal, so
Sure.
that made it easier, and then we put them in a new coffin supplied by the state, and then they were picked up every day at the end of the day by the Walton's funeral home, and they took custody of the remains until it was time for the
I got you.
rebury them. So then everything went over to the new cemetery on the other side, and they all went back in kind of in the order that they were out. And the markers, we had new markers made and put in, and there's a nice obelisk in there with the names of everyone that's known to have been buried, but not necessarily located.
How tall is the obelisk?
I would say it's about 12 feet tall.
12,
It's
okay,
nice
yeah.
rose granite, beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to take a break because I got to change the tape in the camcorders. They're beeping at me, so hang out here. I'll be back with y'all in 5 minutes. There's Valinda Giles right there, Giles. I love you. My biggest sponsor, and fan right there. She lives in Florida, and so she's always every show she's always there for me. All right, I love it. And okay, we're going to break right now, and the reason why, because I got to change the tape on the camcorders. All right, be back in 5 minutes. All right, stay with me.